All right, Nick, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks. We've talked about this team this season so far. Really great quarterback play by Moore. A lot of great freshman skill players stepping up. We've seen Decoria Moore do some good stuff. This team looks really hot. But besides the flash of quarterback and glitz and glamour of skill positions, there's a secret sauce, something that Oregon did this offseason that I think makes this team click, and I think gives them a chance to win a national title this year. We'll dive into all that in just 1 second here. But first, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, Nick, as I alluded to, maybe caught people's attention saying Oregon probably has a really strong chance because of this move to win a national title. It's what they were missing last season. I think it's something that's going to be critically important going forward. We've got some big games on the schedule ahead. So without further ado, let's jump into the article and we can talk more about everything on the other side. So this is over on SI.com. It says, it's no surprise Oregon's redshirt quarterback Dante Moore, 14 touchdowns, 1 interception, has thrived in 2025, thanks in large part to a standout offensive line that gives him ample time to operate. It's the key here. That's the sauce to the success. Only 3 teams in college football have given up just 1 sack through the first 5 games of the 2025 season. That's the Navy Midshipmen, Cincinnati Bearcats, and the Ducks. And what makes that stat even more impressive is that Oregon has passed the ball more than those other 2 programs. The Ducks have thrown 146 passing attempts thus far this season. Cincinnati close at 141. Navy not even in the same ballpark at 71 passing attempts there. But Oregon has completed 72.6% of its passes in the air, ranked number 10 in the country. I think this is the key to Oregon's success this year because, as we all know, Oregon last season only had only had 1 starting offensive lineman return. There's 1 freshman in the mix, as well as 3 transfers that were brought in to this program. And to some people, that would be like, okay, well, we got a lot of turnover on the offensive line. Maybe take a step back this year. Maybe things aren't going to be quite the way that we need them to be. Maybe it takes a year to get back up to speed. But that is not the case because when we look here, from last season, if we look first, last season, 2024, ironically, Oregon ranked 24th in pass blocking, had a 76.8 grade here. But if we fast forward to this year now, Oregon in 2025, what does their pass blocking look like? Number 1 in the country. They're 89.9 in their pass blocking grade, the best pass blocking team in the country, one of the best offensive lines in the country as well. And I think this is the key here. This is why this team has set itself up. Because I think you go back last season, offensive line, the guys in the trenches are probably one of the reason that this Oregon team wasn't able to go all the way. They had to get a little bigger. They had to get a little beefier to be able to contend with a lot of these other Big Ten and SEC teams. They went out, they did just that, and now they're the number 1 team in the country when it comes to pass blocking. And to boot, if you look, and this, mind you, is not positional. This isn't just guards. This isn't just tackles. This isn't just centers. This is all offensive linemen in the country. If you look at pass block grade for Oregon, they have 2 guys in the top 11 of all offensive linemen in the country. So doing really, really good, in 2 transfers to boot. Dave Iluli and Emmanuel Pregnon doing a really good job down in Oregon. This team is looking much, much better than last year as far as offensive line goes. They weren't horrible last year, but it's not a team where you saw the offensive line play and say, hey, I think this team can go win it all. I think they have the offensive line to win a national championship. This year, they look dominant. The offense looks great. The defense looks great. But really, the offensive line, I think, has been the biggest improvement, the biggest surprise, saying, hey, this team, they went out. They made a lot of wholesale changes across the offensive line. Those changes paying off in a big, big way. And we're seeing one of the best offensive lines in the country right now. Curious what your thoughts are on all of this, Nick. But first, Oregon fans, in the comment section below, talking offensive line, let's talk throughout history. This is a very prolific offensive line right now for the Ducks. They're doing really, really great. But is there a favorite year or a year that you may think is even better of offensive line play throughout Oregon Ducks history? Is there a favorite player maybe that was a keystone of an offensive line? Let us know your favorite offensive line year in Oregon Ducks history in the comments section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what are your thoughts on everything here for Oregon?
I think it's critically important what they've done to retool and reload and really put this offensive line in a much higher position, specifically the pass blocking, like you referred to. We can all remember the Rose Bowl last year against Ohio State. People talked about the Oregon defense giving up all those big plays, and that was certainly a big part of that. But Oregon has won games, right? They beat Penn State in the Big Ten championship game, for example, last year when Penn State scored a bunch of points and moved the football all over the Oregon defense. They did it because they had an efficient offense, but the sacks, those big negative plays against the Oregon offense derailed them. They surrendered 8 sacks against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. That's something that cannot happen. And so far in Oregon's biggest matchup in Penn State against Happy Valley against Penn State, they surrendered 0 sacks. And to me, that's the difference. Playoff football, as the college football landscape shifts from the bowl game mindset to like the NFL style playoff model, is completely different, right? So much of it is managing the game. It's avoiding the negative plays. It's weathering the storm. It's going to be a game of runs, right? You're going to have a team come out, and you see this in NFL playoffs all the time. One team gets really hard. They go up like 14-0, right? They're really hot right out the gate. Bang, 14-0. Okay, can you avoid the negative plays and keep it from snowballing, right? You get in a big third down situation. Do you have pass protection where your quarterback can get to his third option and keep the chains moving, right? It's those little things. It's why Tom Brady with the New England Patriots for so many years, Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs for so many years. This is the reason why they win so many playoff games, because it's about managing the game and taking advantage of the big plays when the opportunities are there. Oregon offensively, certainly against second-rate and third-rate competition, can blow them away. And it doesn't even really matter about the third downs. But when you get to playoff football, you're going to have time. Your first option may not be there because you're going to be going against a top-flight team in a neutral setting where they're going to have a scheme, they're going to have a game plan, right? Everyone's on the same footing, right? You didn't have a month to prepare. You had a week to prepare or 2 weeks to prepare. Completely different mindset, completely different approach. It's so much more on the individual players to trust their schemes, trust their reads, and stay ahead of the chains, make smart decisions, and especially at the quarterback position. But the only way you get there is if you have good pass protection. And I think that's what Oregon realized, among other things, after their defeat at the hands of Ohio State in the Rose Bowl last year, was that, listen, our pass pro works great offensively in the regular season, works great offensively when things are clicking. But we're in a tough playoff environment where we have a week to prepare and 2 weeks to prepare, whatever the time frame is. And listen, it's do or die, right? We get off to a slow start defensively. We got to convert 3rd and 6. Instead, you give up sack, go 3 and out, punt, short field. You give up more points. Suddenly, the game gets out of hand, right? It's a completely different mindset, right? You talk to college basketball coaches. They talk about when it comes to the tournament, playing in the NCAA tournament is totally different than playing in the regular season, just because the flow of the game, reacting to runs, how you handle situations, rebounding matters more, right? Free throws matter more. It's the little things that matter a lot more, not necessarily the big headline grabbers. That's exactly what's happened with college football because of the extended playoff. You only have a few days to prepare. Injuries matter more. Depth is really going to get challenged. Offensive line play comes to the forefront. Defensive line play comes to the forefront. That's why the emergence of a guy like Alexander, for example, was such a great find and a great job by the coaching staff when it comes to the Oregon Ducks on the opposite side of the football. But what the O-line has done and what the Dane Lanning and this staff have done in terms of rebuilding it with the roster is absolutely critical, because you can't win a championship without a great O-line. Notre Dame last year had injuries all across the board. They had average quarterback play. They made it to the national championship game, and they gave Ohio State a heck of a run. Why? Good line of scrimmage play, right? That's the story. You look at a lot of talented teams across college football. Look at the Alabama Crimson Tide last year. That was still a Nick Saban kind of roster. They had a championship caliber roster. Why did they fizzle out? Because their line play really stunk that first year under their new head coach, right? Line of scrimmage play in modern college football with the extended playoff matters more than ever. It used to be 10, 15 years ago in the era of like Cam Newton, for example. I know Oregon fans may not want to remember Cam Newton's magical season with Auburn, obviously beating Oregon in the national championship game. But that was a year where that was a time where you could win with supreme talent, right? You could just have 1 or 2 great skill players and they could take over a game. It's different now. With the playoff atmosphere, with the playoff mindset, it takes a different approach. It's about managing the game, staying ahead of the chains, all the things I've mentioned, and offensive line play, third downs just get absolutely magnified. What Oregon has done improving this offensive line play. Again, they weren't terrible last year, but when you go up against the best of the best, like you're going to have in the playoff, you need to be the best of the best yourselves, and that's what Oregon has become. Great job by Dan Lanning, an incredible job in my opinion, because it would have been so easy just to, oh, that was a one-off. Let's keep doing what we're doing, right? We got a plan. We trust our guys. He's like, no, our plan isn't working up front. We're going to make massive changes. We're going to place some guys that went to the National Football League. We're going to add in some quality transfers. We're going to scour the country to fill in with guys that can be key upgrades in pass blocking. Day one, they did that. Great job. And I agree with you 100%. It puts this Oregon squad in a great position to win their first national championship.
Yeah, Nick, and I think one key here for me is this team has worked on and worked into being so good early on the season when some of their toughest opponents, especially going up against Penn State, was early in the season. They're already gelling, they're already clicking. So I expect this offensive line to be nothing but as good, if not better, down the stretch. And going down the stretch, when you look at who they play and what they have on the schedule, I think their hardest game is behind them in Penn State. I think we're going to see Indiana or IU, what they have to bring, if it's the real deal or not. I think that'll be an interesting game to watch this weekend as well. But then you'll look at the USC Trojans as well near the end of the season. I think that could be a game that could be very interesting. I think they're a tough opponent on this schedule. But other than that, this Oregon team, I think the hard work is behind them after this weekend. They have a pretty good opportunity to sail in undefeated to the college football playoff. I think they easily get into there. But I think this is a team looking really strong. I think they have really great aspirations this year. And I think a lot of that is because of this offensive line, like we've been talking about, all the changes they've made. And I think this thing is ahead of schedule. If it was me early on, I'd expect you see a little bit of roughness in the beginning of the season. This is a team that maybe through week 5 we'd be talking about, all right, it's starting to click. We're starting to see this offensive line, what the potential is with so many different guys coming in who haven't been in the program, and how it takes time for offensive line to gel more than any other position group. Nope, already number 1 in the country, especially in pass blocking grade. Very impressive job. I think this is a masterful rebuild, retool of the offensive line for the Oregon Ducks, and Dan Lanning has got this team looking really, really strong this season.